to RJ Ochoa. We're all good, Maddie? We're just getting music. A lot of the nasty chat is saying right now. Okay, I'll keep going here. Sorry about that. Once again, technical difficulties here at the ES10 studios. We got our producers working on that. We'll get Gager up and running here as well. I'm Hernan Salas. He is Joaquin Gage. Our producer is Zach Kubusch. Welcome to EST Afternoons. Fun show. Today we'll be going to Dallas to talk some Cowboys. I know Lars Y on the Nasty Chat is pretty pumped about that with RJ Ochoa, of course, the manager and editor-in-chief at Blogging the Boys for SB Nation. I mean, Dak with the big contract. They picked up a big win. Zeke Elliott's back with them as well, so we'll get to all that with RJ Ochoa. As well at 1:40, it's the return of Hernan's World. We'll have some fun with that. It's going to be there's a little tie-in as well into that, so we'll have some fun with that with Joaquin and Zach as well. And at 2:20, for my guy, Tim Hauraney, for my guy, Joaquin Gage, we're going to talk some F1 with Tim Hauraney. Of course, he's the F1 insider and host of Nailing the Apex podcast here on Edmonton Sports Talk. And then we'll tee you up for the Reed Wilkins show with Jay Milne from 3 to 6. Lots of news coming out surrounding the NHL and some key dates here. We'll get to all that. Of course, Pacioretty signs the PTO with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's expected he is going to sign before the season starts. A few other ones. Former Oilers, Adam Ernie. This came yesterday. Just forgot to mention it. He signed with the Rangers on a PTO as well. And then today, Utah has signed Kailer Yamamoto also to a PTO. And Elliot Friedman reporting Pierre-Edouard Bellemare will be going to Colorado on a professional tryout as well. He played 2 seasons there. So a lot of PTO information coming out as we approach the start of training camp. Of course, Oiler rookies checked in for medicals and fitness testing today. And Gager and I did not touch on this. It's been announced a few days ago, but there was no changes to the Oilers coaching staff. However, they did send out a presser today as they've announced 3 additions to their hockey operations. It will be Tobias Salmelainen. He'll be the player acquisition and development in Europe. Andreas Carlson will be the player development coach, and Vincent Maltz, mental performance and player development coach for your Edmonton Oilers. So just some light news there regarding the Oilers. Some key dates, and I wanted to get in this with Gager, but like I said, we're still working and trying to get him on here. We're having some audio issues. Gager, are you there? No, he's not. Gage, are you there? Yeah, he can hear us. We can't hear him at the moment, but we'll get to some key dates here, and hopefully we'll get to it with Joaquin Gage here shortly. Camps across the NHL open 1 week today on September 18th. Opening rosters due on October 6th. That's a big day. Of course, we'll find out who's going to make the Oilers lineup. I mean, up front, it's pretty safe to say who's going to be there defensively. We will have maybe 1 or 2 additions. Emberson's the big one everybody keeps talking about. Of course, Travis Dermott is being rumored to be signing here on a PTO. The 27-year-old left shot defenseman. Many are saying he can play both sides, so that might help him crack this lineup. But again, he's going to be probably bottom pairing, 7th defenseman kind of guy here. So we'll go with that. And then continuing on, the holiday freeze will be December 20th to 27th. Of course, that's for the Christmas break. The season pause for the Four Nations face-off February 10th to the 21st. So a nice little break there for the NHL. The guys that won't be there, it's going to be a nice little break. The NHL trade deadline, it's on a Friday, March 7th. Of course, 1 p.m. Mountain Time is the deadline. The last day of the season, April 17th. And I wanted to get into the trade deadline discussion with Joaquin Gage here. We need to move it up. Is it too late in the season? I'm one who would like to see it moved up. I think teams that are struggling, not struggling, but let's say you're 6-8 points out come March 7th. You're fighting for that last wild card spot. Is 18 to 20 games enough for you to make that comeback? Is it enough to give up, prospects, picks to make a push, and you might not even make it? So I'd like to see it pushed up, maybe 2-3 weeks, because then you're adding about 6 to 10 games. I want to hear from you. Let us know at the Paris Jewelers inbox at 780-218-9999 or on the Nasty Chat. Would you like to see the NHL trade deadline moved up? Because right now it's on March 7th. The Oilers, my good friend Reed Wilkins filled me in on this one. They will have 20 games left when the deadline approaches. So I would like to see it moved up here. Other news from around the sporting world. Let's head to the CFL. According to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press, Bombers are talking to both Jake Dolegala and Brian Scott, both quarterbacks. Nothing official yet, but it sounds like they are on their way, and they're going to sign both. So that's interesting, as Trevler announced on his Instagram yesterday afternoon, I think it was, that he tore 3 of 4 major ligaments in his knees. So some backup insurance there for Zach Collaros. Of course, you need the short yardage back as well. So Jake Dolegala, for me, makes a lot of sense. He's 6'7". He's been in that role. He's started a ton of games. So if, let's say Zach Collaros is struggling or, has to miss a game or two due to injury, Jake Dolegala is not a bad option. Of course, with Nathan Rourke, he was released with the BC Lions. He started his last game here in Edmonton, and it was a loss. So, interesting. I know Dusty brought up Taylor Cornelius, but Taylor Cornelius hasn't been around all season long. He was great at short yardage. I saw firsthand, and there was a couple of those fake plays that he ended up finding AC Leonard, one for a big game, one for a touchdown. So I don't think they're going to go with Taylor Cornelius just because he's been inactive. And in terms of playing real games, he's not signed anywhere. He's probably back in the States. So Jake Dolegala and Brian Scott, who a lot of people in Toronto liked and were a little upset when he did get fired. They're saying he has the really high potential. So 2 guys coming in here to back up Zach Collaros ahead of a big matchup, a 2-game matchup with the Edmonton Elks. Another note, Giro Simon will be talking to the media on a Zoom call today at 2 p.m. It sounds like it's just a bye week, presser, touch base on the season and looking ahead to the final stretch here as the Elks look to lock down a playoff spot. For the first time since 2021, they're not sitting in 5th in the CFL West, which is great to see. Only a few points back of the struggling Saskatchewan Roughriders. So that's some big news regarding the CFL. Of course, we got the Thursday nighter coming up tomorrow. It's the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins. Going to be another fantastic game, hopefully high scoring, but it's the NFL never disappoint. Well, it does disappoint quite honestly a bit, but there's always those 3-4 games that are just outstanding. So as we continue to work here through some technical issues, waiting to get Joaquin Gage on here as he remains remote, as he's just battling a little bit of a cold and should be good to go tomorrow back here in the studios. Looking at the Nasty Chat, like I said, Lars very happy that there's F1 in Cowboys talk. Zedmo says, will Savoy be a balance of Eberle and Yamamoto? We can get into all that with Joaquin Gage. Of course, a little surprise, Kyler Yamamoto is on a PTO. He's still fairly young. He's put up some good numbers. Not the best season last year with the Kraken, but you're going to see this a lot going forward. A lot of PTOs around the NHL. And the Oilers still waiting on the official word on Travis Dermott if they bring 1 or 2 more players in on PTOs, just because the preseason is so long. I wanted to get into the Esties as well with Mr. Joaquin Gage. It's only less than a week away. It's going to go down on September 17th down there at the Garneau Theater. It's going to be great. We want to talk about Esties Fit and all of that stuff as we prepare for the biggest award show of the year. But once again, 1:20, we're going to have RJ Ochoa from Blogging Boys as we're going to talk Dallas Cowboys coming up next here on EST Afternoons. As we continue to work through some technical issues, we'll be right back here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. RJ Ochoa on the other side of the break.
Get ready, Edmonton. The moment you've been waiting for is here. It's time to celebrate the best of the best with the Esties as we honor everything from Edmonton Sports Talk's incredible first year. Join us on September 17th at Metro Cinema for an unforgettable night of excitement, laughter, and recognition. Tickets are just $10. Secure your spot by emailing at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. And after the show, let's keep the party going at Hudson's White Ave for the official after party. Mark your calendar, grab your tickets, and get ready to celebrate the best moments of EST. It's the Esties, September 17th.
At A&W, you can start the morning off right with a regular coffee and an egger of your choice for just $4.99. Bacon and egger or sausage and egger on a seeded bun or an English muffin? The choice is yours. But we know it'll be tasty either way. And matters even more delicious, this offer is available all day. But don't snooze on this deal. An egger and a regular coffee for only $4.99 is a limited time price. Available at participating A&W restaurants in Greater Edmonton.
If you've been injured in a car collision, let James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers, protect your interests. They'll be there every step of the way to help answer your questions and help you get your life back on track. Trust Alberta's precedent-setting injury lawyers with their unrivaled experience, unrivaled results, and unrivaled commitment. When accidents happen, call James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers, 780-428-0088, or go to jameshbrown.com.
Come get your game on at The Ranch. The Ranch lets it all hang out with a championship caliber design, premier conditions, and above all, a fun, laid-back experience. Get top-notch service and unmatched value every time you play at The Ranch. Think you have what it takes to go low? The best value for your golfing buck is always The Ranch. The Ranch Golf and Country Club. 10, 50, 100, and 200 round packs on sale. TheRanchGolf.com.
Celebrate the grand opening of Sit and Sleep and discover a revolutionary way to shop for mattresses. Stop in today for a free pressure point scan using cutting-edge technology so sleepologists can identify the perfect mattress for you. Right now, you'll get free local delivery on any mattress over $5.99 and receive a bamboo cooling mattress protector. Get grand opening savings now with every mattress on sale. Join us on location today for the celebrations at Sit and Sleep in South Common next to Planet Fitness.
Edmonton Sports Talk delivers a mass audience of key, influential customers to your business, all while you associate your company brand with the biggest names, the hottest sports news, and teams from every league around the globe. Oilers and Elks, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the Association, Formula One, soccer, golf. Oh, sweet mama! The excitement is palatable on Edmonton Sports Talk. It's where fans go to get their sports fix and where our partners find the most loyal consumers. Contact us today and see how our team on Edmonton Sports Talk can score the biggest goals for your business. With various advertising options available, email business@edmontonsportstalk.com or head to our website and send a message at edmontonsportstalk.com.
$119 here on Edmonton Sports Talk, static free since 23. EST afternoons. I'm Hernan Salas, and I'm pleased to be joined by my main guy here, the co-host, Joaquin Gage. Gage, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. You can hear me now? Everything's good?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Those first 15 minutes were rough. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad we got you here now.
Obviously, this virus went through the computer here. Became a computer virus, too.
Oh, man. I had so many things to ask you, but we'll get to all that. We still got an hour and 40 minutes to go here as we'll talk some NHL trade deadline, some key dates, Gager, in the world of the NHL, and of course we're going to talk some F1. You were so excited yesterday when we closed out the show. I said we got to get Tim on, so looking forward to that conversation at 2:20. Zach, you can probably call RJ right now, and we'll get him on the horn here as we talk Dallas Cowboys as they're getting ready for their matchup, week 2 matchup at home as they host the New Orleans Saints. Are coming off a win in Cleveland. And they played really well. Of course, Dak's big contract, the return of Zeke, a defense that should be dominant again. But, Gager, how you feeling today?
Terrible. This is terrible, man. I after the show yesterday, I went straight to bed and woke up this morning. It was just awful. So sorry I can't be there with you again, buddy. But we're hopefully we're on the mend here, but lots of sleep essentially over the last 2 days. But Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of that Cowboys-Browns game. Looked like Deshaun Watson wasn't at his best by any means.
Oh, no.
How do you
gosh, no.
The Cowboys this year? I mean, I thought it was a good performance by Dak, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing to write home about, right? So, yeah, and it's going to be an interesting week, too. We got the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins as well tomorrow. We're just ahead of RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys for SB Nation here. We'll get more on the Dallas Cowboys. Just Zach, let me know when he's good to go. So we bring in RJ Ochoa, a manager and editor-in-chief at Blogging the Boys for SB Nation. RJ, how you doing today?
Doing well, guys. Happy hump day.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to last week's victory and look ahead to the game against the Saints, Dak Prescott became the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, 4-year, $240 million contract extension. RJ, how's this extension contract being received there in Dallas?
You know, it's quite lucrative to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, certainly, and I think evidence certainly suggests that, but it is a heavy crown. I don't think there's any denying that. And so I don't know of a fan base that has as many people who hate the starting quarterback, for their favorite team as the Dallas Cowboys. And so I've been a proponent for the Cowboys, extending back not just this offseason, but last, and even in 2019, 20, and 21 when we did this song and dance in the previous iteration. And so you got people who are, unhappy and disgruntled, and in their defense, this is a franchise that, is fighting an almost 30-year-old shadow. And so they're a little bit restless, but I think ultimately, the cooler heads that are prevailing are extraordinarily happy and pleased because he is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think that everyone is hopeful that soon enough, he'll be Frodo finally delivering the ring back to Mordor.
I like that one. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. With Dak, just you mentioned the massive contract. How much does that first game kind of put some of the naysayers? Okay, look, it was a pretty good performance by Dak Shepard last week. This week, something seeing how the New Orleans Saints played, putting up a lot of points on the board. Does that kind of quiet the critics of Dak going into the next game and kind of relieve some of that pressure?
You would think, but again, this is a group of people that is, pretty starved for some serious playoff success. And I think that, the heaviest criticism levied against Dak is that, he's a phenomenal quarterback in the regular season, but that, he shrinks in the playoffs, and that Mike McCarthy shrinks in the playoffs, and everybody obviously associated with the team. And so, in keeping, lines along that logic, if you subscribe to it, I mean, I don't think anyone is shocked that he played well, in the first week of September, I guess technically the second. And so I think people are just anxious, to be proven wrong when it really matters. Now, I think people get a warped sense of reality with all that. I mean, this is a team, that Dak Prescott's obviously been a part of, that has been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. And nobody, is suggesting hanging a banner for that or anything like that. But, in this drought, which Dak Prescott is obviously not entirely responsible for, that was really not something that happened. They had never been to the playoffs 3 years in a row in the drought. It hadn't happened since the mid-90s. And, over the last 3 years, obviously prior to last week, the Cowboys have won more regular season games than anybody in the NFL that isn't the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, it's the regular season, and nobody is suggesting that means everything. But because of the heaviness of the shadow the team is in, it does, I think, disallow people from accepting that what they're doing is in and of itself very, very, very difficult.
RJ Ochoa joining us here from Blogging the Boys. RJ, what did you make of their week one performance? Like Gager said here, Dak looked good. One touchdown pass. It was a return of Zeke Elliott with the Dallas Cowboys. We saw CeeDee Lamb kind of do his thing there for a few plays. What did you take away from that game? What impressed you the most?
Yeah, I think I was just most impressed with how sound and how overall the victory was. You could look at how passing numbers and offensive numbers in general were down in the NFL at large across week one as a whole. But if we look at just this game, obviously I've in the days since been able to assess everything else that happened across the league. But, if you kept tabs on this game, Dallas was up 20-3 as the ball hung in the air for Cavante Turpin to give them their first possession of the second half. And then he took it all the way back to the house. And, it was 27-3. And so this is a team that knows that they will be in contention in the playoffs and be playing serious football in January. And, try as they might, they can't avenge the playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers in the second half in Cleveland in week 1. And so I think that they just packed up and were willing to go home and were, accepting that they accomplished the overall goal. And so the numbers don't necessarily reflect that, but it was a really total team win. And for that to be the case, obviously on the day that Dak signed his extension, but after the offseason that was with the all-in and the lack of movement and the lack of extensions, it was, in the time that I've been doing this professionally and really just my entire life, the most toxic offseason that this franchise has ever had. Amazingly, in a completely self-induced way. So for them to, again, in their first bit of actual football action, look so smooth and like such a machine was really, really, really impressive.
Let's look on the other side of the ball. DeMarvion Overshown had a monster game, having to have sit out his first season. What's the ceiling with this guy? It looked like he was all over the field in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this was one where you kind of, you were afraid to hope because he was so promising last year in training camp and in the preseason. Third-round pick out of the University of Texas. And it really just kind of looked like he was going to be something special for Dan Quinn to work with. And then the torn ACL happens and he's just kind of lost. And so I think you're always skeptical to trust that, that's just going to pick up where you left off because it's such an unpredictable thing in the world of sports at large. But he has completely and totally lived up to the hype. And obviously Mike Zimmer, as the new defensive coordinator, has a bit of a different way he likes to use his linebackers compared to the previous DC and Dan Quinn. And so, I mean, he was, he was a freak. He was the fastest kid alive. I mean, obviously the infamous line from Superbad, it was, I mean, at one point in time, he made Micah Parsons look slow, which is, I mean, has never happened. And so it's exciting to think that the Cowboys may have really elevated the play of their linebacker group overall. Obviously, he's a big reason why.
Looking ahead to week 2, RJ, the Dallas Cowboys will take on the New Orleans Saints, who are coming off a big win against the lonely Carolina Panthers. Is the Saints offense the thing that worries you more heading into this game?
Yeah, I don't see how you can't, at least be cautious of it. I know a lot of people are so willing to poo-poo it away and say, oh, it's just the Panthers. I mean, at the end of the day, the New Orleans Saints were second in the NFL from an offensive perspective in terms of EPA per play. I mean, they were very, very, very effective and very, very, very efficient. I mean, regardless of who the opponent is, that's a highly impressive thing. And Derek Carr has weirdly played well against the Cowboys. Obviously, in the past, that was as a member of the Raiders. But this is, the Cowboys play the Baltimore Ravens next week. And so you do kind of wonder if this has some trap game kind of potential. The Dallas is favored heavily, so they're 6.5-point favorites. And they've, been victims of being asleep at the wheel for stuff like this in the past. And so, this is a team that just certainly cannot afford to slip up because they play in a conference where they have some big brothers that they have to knock off, like the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers, presuming Jordan Love gets back in a healthy capacity. So I think, I would be shocked if they were just assuming that this performance from New Orleans last week was a mirage of sorts.
Just going through the start of the season, I mean, you mentioned it. It's kind of the mantra of the teams, kind of get back to the Super Bowl, become champions. Has anything different from this from the preseason to the first game that's changed in seasons past?
I mean, it's difficult to say that the contracts getting done for CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott hasn't significantly altered everything. And beyond, the obvious ways, I mean, in doing that, the Cowboys have now cemented the next half decade of who they'll be as a football team. And, while many assumed that those things would get done even as late as the preseason, they were unknown things up until about 2.5 weeks ago. And so the whole kind of chemistry of who they are is very different now, compared to what it was literally all of this offseason. But this is, again, a team that just can't do it, right? I mean, I don't know how old you all are, but I mean, for most, average adult lives, at this point in time, people understand them to be a team that is going to fail when it matters the most. And, they do a lot of impressive things, but because of their stature and the stage and who they are and the brand, I mean, you know, their accomplishments are forgotten and their failures are elevated, and they really have no one to help dig themselves out of that hole except for each other. And so they've failed, and they've convinced themselves that this one way was going to be the right one and that one was going to be then, and they've changed and they've adjusted. And so I think the thing that maybe potentially provides people with some point of comfort is that, you know, Mike McCarthy is a coach who obviously has been around for a long time and was the coach of playoff teams year in and year out, obviously in Green Bay before Dallas. And generally speaking, I mean, again, none of this is a guarantee. If you're knocking on the door over and over and over again, you know, odds are that at some point fate finally smiles upon you. And so they've been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. They've won a single playoff game there that they get no credit for because Tom Brady's Buccaneers were below 500. But is this the year? I don't know, but I know that they're going to be in the mix at the very least to provide us with some high level of entertainment while they try.
RJ, thank you so much for coming on this afternoon and talking some Cowboys. Never a dull moment covering that team, like you said. We're gonna see what they're gonna be able to do in the regular season. But I think the big question will be what they can do in the playoffs. RJ, great stuff as always. Where can our listeners find your work?
Appreciate you guys having me. I'm all over social media at RJ Ochoa. I make it nice and simple. bloggingtheboys.com is where all my written work can be found. Like I said, thanks to you both for having me on. Hope you have a great rest of the week and hope to talk to you throughout the course of football season.
Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, RJ.
That was RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys for SB Nation. We used to have him on the old station. Always brings the good stuff. He does a great job covering this team. And Gager, it's funny that he says, like, no matter what this team does, I think he used the word, they always poo-poo on this team until they have playoff success, because I compare it to here where it's mad hockey town here. We live and die with every game and every play, and a team that just went to the finals and lost in a game 7, and we dissect it all, and it's when they lose it's extremely negative, when they win it's extremely positive. But it seems like Dallas Cowboys media fans is just on a whole nother level.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it starts. Jerry Jones is quite involved. There's so many different little storylines. I don't know if you watched it, Hernan, but my wife watched it. We watched the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader documentary.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was fascinating, first of all. But they thought that the last year that because the extra dates, they were going to have some more playoff games. It was all about playoffs, and then they just get crushed by Green Bay, right? And everything ended kind of suddenly throughout the whole organization. Got to tell RJ, I was a Tony Dorsett fan back in the day, and the 49ers were always my dream crushers because my dad liked them, and you always don't want to cheer with the same team your dad has. So I picked Tony Dorsett basically because he was a running back, and that's what I played. But yeah, man, I don't know. I hope they have some success. I think it's good for the NFL when the Dallas Cowboys are a successful football team, but they don't. There's never a dull moment. Dallas, everything's bigger there.
No, and it's in that contract that it's just
because
if you're on the socials and you kind of went to like Dallas Cowboys fans or whatever, just not Googled it, but put it in the search bar. Like a lot of fans were not happy with that contract, Gager.
Oh, how are they supposed to be? Really good quarterback throughout the regular season, but once the playoffs come, seems to fall down and just can't get it done. It doesn't have those typical Dak type of performances, right?
Yeah.
I remember when he kind of took over from Romo, and I was like, wow, this guy is something else. Like finally the Cowboys, not that Romo was a bad quarterback, but again, just seemed like they've had quarterbacks that they've been able to get to the dance, but just can't get onto the dance floor and do their stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. That's going to be a fun game over the weekend with the New Orleans Saints, who put up a lot of points. And yes, I know it's the Carolina Panthers, but it's going to be a good test for that Dallas defense. See what Dak does, CD Lamb, and I love that Zeke Elliott's back there. It's just a little bit nostalgia, even though it's not that far removed from it. But it's always cool to see. And like you said, I think with the Dallas Cowboys, you either a fan or you just like watching them suffer a little bit. I think that's the way it is, right? Because
they're the Leafs.
yeah. Because when I was getting into the NFL, early 90s, they were dominating. And you didn't like Troy Aikman, you didn't like Emmitt Smith, you didn't like Michael Irvin, right? Unless you were, like I said, a fan of theirs. They are the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL. Lars, known Cowboys fan, says Jones has to be less involved in today. Just sit back and eat your popcorn. Thank you, Struddy, and watch your boys. Jeffrey Taylor says Niners Super Bowl champs 2025. Lars agrees with you. Sounds like the Leafs. Laugh out loud. And then Chano also says the Cowboys are the Leafs of the NFL. So there you go. Big shout out to RJ Ochoa, always willing to come on here on Edmonton Sports Talk and talk some Cowboys. Gager, before we get to break, I just wanted to get to some dates. The NHL announced trade deadline will be March 7th, which is a Friday. The Oilers will have 20 games remaining at that point. You're a guy that played in the league. I think for me, I've always wanted the trade deadline to be moved up so teams have more of a chance and are not sitting back and, you're 6-8 points out and you're like, do I want to give up a top pick or a prospect if I only have 18 games left and I don't know if we're going to make it? Like, would you like to see the trade deadline moved up or do you like it exactly where it is?
So you're saying you'd like it sometime in February that you'd say?
So let's say you bump it up 2 weeks and then you add 6-8 games because then you have more games, you have more runway to make a run, right?
It's a good question, buddy. I feel like if I'm a GM, I'm looking to get something done way before that time, especially if it's a real big player, because there's going to have to be adjustments made to your lineup, right? And these are guys that have created like chemistry or played together for a longer period of time. To develop something new with that short amount of runway is always quite difficult. I mean, only one team gets it right at the end of the day, right? At the trade deadline. A lot of times you just see rentals and then they're leaving the next year. I think the Oilers, in their case, what they were able to do with the guys that came in last year and over the last few years, you've seen them stay, which is really quite amazing. They're getting these so-called rentals at a discount price. So the culture's changed. But look, I think if you're scrambling and you don't make those deals until the deadline, then you haven't done your job as a general manager.
That's fair. Yeah,
I'd like to see those types of, if there's an issue or somewhere where you think you can make your team better, you try to get that thing done earlier in the season, because that disruption later that it can cause sometimes, because they don't always work. I look at when Patrick Kane went to the Rangers, right? Everyone was like, oh my gosh. And that didn't,
an offense. Yeah.
But did it work out? Not really.
No. And that's the thing. Like, do you have enough time to find chemistry with a line? Do you have enough time to find a chemistry with a defensive partner? And I just think bumping it up a bit, a lot of teams that are on that bubble are more willing to make. And now we've seen busy trade deadlines. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I think they'd be even more, because teams are like, well, instead of having 20 games, we have 30 games left here. We're 6 points back of a wild card spot. We can make a serious run. I'm going to give up my first rounder and get a top 6 guy that's going to help us.
You might actually, in that case, you might see more teams that are on the cusp, maybe like, a few points out of a wild card spot, going, what, if we make the right deal and get the right personnel, we could take a run at this thing and make the playoffs. And as we've seen in the past years, it's as long as you get in, you never know what can happen after that, right? For the most part. So that could make the trade deadline a lot more interesting from a view of, even from the outside looking in, we still got a chance here, instead of going into full sale mode, right? And just going, we're looking forward to the next year.
Yeah, Jeffrey Taylor on the Nasty Chat says, I like the idea of moving the trade deadline maybe at the midpoint of the season. See, I think that's too much. Do you know what I mean, Gage? Because you can make trades whenever you want. I just think if you're bumping it up to like mid-February, I think it's just going to be better for the league. It's going to be better for a lot of teams that still have that hope that they're going to make the playoffs. or are pushing for a spot, and for teams that are just in there as well. So we want to hear from you. Let us know at the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999, or on the Nasty Chat. Would you move up the trade deadline, and by how much? Jeffrey wants to move it to the midpoint. I want to do it about 2 weeks, so you're adding about anywhere from 6 to 8 games. It gives you a little bit more runway.
I don't think you could have it the midway. Just you're guarding against injuries a little bit too, right? So if someone goes down late, you can try to replace that player. Yeah, but I don't mind your idea, buddy.
Thank you. Well, we're rolling once again here on EST Afternoons after some technical difficulties there in the first segment. Happy to have Gager on as he's still recovering from a cold. Hopefully he's back in studio tomorrow here at the William Huff Studios in the west end of the city. Reminder, you can listen to us on edmontonsportstalk.com, the TuneIn app, and iHeartRadio. You can watch us on the YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up button as well. Coming up next, it is Hernan's Roll. We're going to have some fun with Gager and Zach. But first, here's a sports update with Zach Kubusch.
The Edmonton Oilers have signed Tobias Salmelainen, Andreas Karlsson, and Vincent Maltz to join their hockey operations team. Salmelainen will be in player development and an acquisition role in Europe, while Karlsson and Maltz join in on player development as well. Edmonton Oilers rookie camp kicks off tonight with players getting down to Rogers Place for their medical screenings. The rookies start their Young Stars Classic, down in Penticton on Friday, and that'll run until the 16th. Staying in the Oilers world, former Oiler Taylor Yamamoto has signed a PTO with the Utah HC. He had 8 goals for 16 points in 59 appearances for the Kraken last year. NHL veteran Max Pacioretty has signed a PTO as well to go on to the Toronto Maple Leafs squad. Former captain of the Montreal Canadiens has been dealing with injuries throughout the past seasons and has played with the Vegas Golden Knights as well as the Capitals since his time with the Habs. Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert is ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bills. He missed all the team's practices this week as well. Devon Achane, the team's other running back, is also questionable for tomorrow's game. Just after the break, we'll be back with Hernan and Gager to get into Hernan's World here on EST Afternoons. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
Why tee off at the Ranch Golf and Country Club?
A fun, unique layout offering premier conditions. The Ranch has been ranked as one of the top public courses in Canada.
Unmatched value. Score Golf Magazine rated the Ranch as the best value in Edmonton.
The service, from tournaments to special events to the pro shop. Superior service that makes every visit exceptional.
The Ranch Golf and Country Club, a laid-back environment where anyone can enjoy an amazing day on the fairways. For details, visit theranchgolf.com.
Hi there. If you're like me, you like to picture yourself in luxury, even though there's absolutely no way you could afford it. And if you can, well, even better. Thankfully, I picture myself in something that is luxury, but still absolutely affordable, like the all-new Mazda CX-90 from Park Mazda. With the new luxury features like facial recognition settings and quilted detail Napa leather seating, I can pretend to be comfortable with all of my proper settings activated without even touching a button, thanks to Mitch Lewicki and the great staff at Park Mazda. I like to picture Mitch Lewicki as newborn 8-pound, 6-ounce Mitch Lewicki. You can picture grown-up Mitch, or teenage Mitch, or bearded Mitch, or whoever you want.
Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Park Mazda does.
Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
This Wednesday afternoon, welcome to Edmonton Sports Talk. It's EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas, Joaquin Gage, and Zach Kubusch. Hit us up on the Paris Jewelers inbox at 780-218-9999 or on the Nasty Chat here. Zedmo on the Nasty Chat says, is Lavoie tougher than Holloway? We'll get into that in the second hour here because we don't know that, Gager. There's no way to know that. Obviously, he doesn't have the speed and all that, but I know a lot of fans are high on Raphael Lavoie, and for good reason. He has really good numbers in the AHL and really hasn't gotten an opportunity with the big club, and I don't see it happening this year unless there's injuries, but we'll get to that later on as we now bring in Hernan's World. Hey, you like to partner with Hernan's World? Let us know. Hernan at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. If you're looking to partner with the Red Light District, that's going to go down on Thursdays with Joaquin Gage. Let us know. It's Hernan or Joaquin at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. For Hernan's World today, it is kind of sporty because this gentleman was in 2 sports movies. There's probably more, but the 2 main ones. James Earl Jones passed away on Monday. It broke on our show late Monday afternoon. Of course, the classic voice. Darth Vader, The Field of Dreams. He's just, every time you think of the best voices in Hollywood, he's probably the top of the list for many. He was in Field of Dreams. Like I said, that was a sports movies. And he was in The Sandlot, Joaquin. Have you ever seen The Sandlot?
I think I did, but it was a long, long time ago. So I can't even remember it.
It's a classic with Smalls and I can't remember the other guy's name, but it's just kids playing baseball. It's great. And he plays a small role, but he is in that movie. So in honor of James Earl Jones, one of the best voices in Hollywood, if not the best, we're going to go with your top 3 best voices in movie history. Gager, you can start us off. I know Zach's got a list as well. There's a lot of great ones. And I mean, it can be a performance. It can be a guy that's just every movie he's in. It's just a voice that grabs your attention. Gager, what do you got?
Well, we're just going 1 for 1 here. So at the number 1 on my list, iconic voice, it has to be Liam Neeson. The one line, I've developed a set of skills that from Taken. It's perfect. My wife loves every movie just to hear his voice, I think. So Liam Neeson's got to be on one of those, on one of the tops of the list.
Yeah, the top one for me, I got to go, and I'm already seeing his name on the Nasty Chat, is Morgan Freeman. Like, it's just so smooth. And he's probably like narrated so many documentaries. I know he did the Penguins one. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Life of a Penguin. It was just fantastic. Yeah. Morgan Freeman in Shawshank, one of the best performances I've ever seen. But he's just great, like narrating in movies. It's just that soft tone that he has. So I'm going to go with Morgan Freeman. How about you, Zach?
I got to go. That's who I was thinking of as well, Morgan Freeman. But one that pops out to me as well is Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh.
Every single movie he's in is just, he's got that booming voice. Like, Pulp Fiction's an insane movie.
He's great.
Every
at
time
that
he's in there. Even in Star Wars, he's so good. So it's got to be Samuel L. Jackson for me.
All right. Our first 3 picks are outstanding right now. Gager, what do you got?
Well, now I got to go with a Canadian. This is, my kids were a little bit younger. The Lego movie, Will Arnett as Batman, just that deep baritone voice. Arrested Development, he was Job, absolutely brilliant in that. But he does that some commercial stuff. You know his voice when it talks. Will Arnett's my second one.
All right, that's a good one. It's kind of off the board, but I like it. I'm going to go with another legend, Sean Connery, of course, James Bond. One of my, I know Dusty's going to like this because he did a movie called The Rock with Nicolas Cage. He was really good in that, but just the accent, the delivery. I think, and my dad was a big James Bond guy, so I've watched them all along with the Roger Moore ones. I haven't looked at the new ones, watched the new ones, Gage. I'm just so stuck in the old school ones.
What?
That I don't think the new ones will do the old ones justice. Maybe I'm wrong. You're wrong. But Sean Connery is my second pick. Zachticum.
Oh, man. Like, I don't know. I was in between a few, and some of the roles maybe might have been a bit smaller or anything, but Robin Williams.
Oh.
Robin Williams is a little bit of a far pick. I know. No, I got it on my mind, though, but every time you hear his voice, like, you can't help but get happy because he's just got, he could do any voice he wants to. And he was in the Aladdin. He was great as a genie.
Miss Doubtfire.
Oh yeah, that's right. A live action movie. I'm only thinking a bunch of animated movies. I don't know why, but I always think about the animated voice actors that it just gives that much more because that's the only performance you got, right? Like you can't really see, you move your own body, but you got to be that character. And he did so good as a genie.
100%. Because you say animated, like James Earl Jones, one of his best was Lion King.
Yeah, it's Mufasa.
Right? Yeah. Gager, your last one on the board here for best Hollywood voices.
Well, this one just gets the blood flowing for you a little bit, but she was fantastic in Bull Durham. Susan Sarandon, that deep, resonant voice, reading poetry, that Southern drawl. Oh my gosh, she's way up there.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of good ones on the Nasty Chat. Thank you for chiming in on those ones. But my last one's going to be a guy who's still going, and he's directing, and he's doing a lot of great things, and he's an absolute legend, Clint Eastwood. Like, just the deep tone, and when he's mad, and you know what I mean? There's that. What's that one? He's in so many great movies, Gage. I can't pinpoint one, but just that voice is just fantastic. So for me, it's Clint Eastwood. Zach, your last one.
Clint Eastwood is one that I didn't even think of, which it just went over my head. Like, you can't even name all of the movies he's been in, probably hundreds of movies. But this guy, he's a little bit older, but he's still kicking around, and he's in one of my favorite films of all time, in Silence of the Lambs. Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, yes.
Such a good voice. Like, he narrated the Grinch movie as well, but I don't know, that just his role in Silence of the Lambs, that voice is just, it's like nails on a chalkboard almost, but it's so creepy. It's so good. Yeah, it's creepy. You can come in there and you can't forget it.
And that's one of his best performances. Like, it has to be. Like, that is right. Like you said, you watch him and you've watched it 20 times and you still get a little creeped out when he's talking to Clarice.
It spooks me out, man.
I got an honorable mention, and this is just a performance. It's not him in every movie, but you get Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Who wouldn't want to sound like that guy?
Yeah. Spency 5 Centsy, Holly Hunter, another, that Southern drawl, deep, resonant voice. Yeah. I like that one too, Spency.
Matthew McConaughey's a good one.
That's a good one. Old Southern voice. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. But you know how you hear some of these, you know who it is right away. Like, that's what I was looking for. I think with Anthony Hopkins, yeah, it's good. I mean, I just watched him in the Thor movies again, but you know right away, right, when you hear that voice. Awesome. Just awesome.
We got a few more here. Gilbert Gottfried. I don't mean if that's a voice I enjoyed, Gager, but definitely recognizable. Here we go. We got more Steve McQueen, which is another one. Lauren Green. What's the actress that Dusty always plays on his show? That she's just got a real. It's just who the hell are you? All this.
Oh yeah. I forget her name. I have to ask him.
Well, I guess I can
throw Mama from the train. Someone will tell us.
Someone will tell us. There, Christopher Walken's another good one.
Yeah, lots of Sam Elliott's. We talked about him yesterday, right? I would have had him on my list if we didn't mention him. But the original Roadhouse, when he gets there and it's awesome. Kicks the guy right in the knee and gives it that hurts, don't it? That's
yeah. Are you guys thinking great. Anne Ramsey? Is that the voice actor?
Yeah, that's it.
Just seeing a couple lists. Eddie Murphy's on a few lists here as well. I mean, legendary in the late 80s, early 90s with Beverly Hills Cop and a lot more of the 48 Hours and stuff like that. Tom Hanks on some list as well here. Just looking at one of
Christopher Walken. I don't know how I didn't have that one. That was a good one. And we needed to be bigger than 3, buddy. That's 3's not enough.
I like this one from Obelisk 21. Kathleen Turner had the sultry voice. She was great. And all those Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, War of the Roses, I think it was called. That's an excellent choice right there. Denzel Washington. I don't know. How about if we go to TV shows? I was thinking of this when I was talking to Zach, prepping for it. Putty.
Oh, Putty. Putty's a good one. He narrated that children's book too, Lemony Snicket's books too, on the series on Netflix. A really good voice. Loved Putty.
And it's always the same, because I think he had a sitcom too that ran for a few years. Like, it wasn't a one and done. I think it had like maybe 3-4 seasons, and it just, his voice just always makes me laugh. Just a few more here. Zedmo says Joe Pesci. I mean, you can go Joe Pesci, you can go Robert De Niro, you can go Al Pacino, the three great gangster actors, right? Like, it's just, I mean, it's not something that stands out, but it's just, as soon as you hear it, you're going back to Scarface for Al Pacino, you know, The Godfathers for Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci and all the gangster movies he's in. It's always the same, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Donald Sutherland, too, from V-Power in the Paris Jewelers inbox. 780-218-9999. Let us know what who you think had the best movie/TV voice of all time.
This one says, I can give you like 10 movies that you should watch that Hopkins is brilliant in. Hernan. Oh, I know. I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that performance alone was just one of his best. That's Hernan's World, second edition on EST Afternoons. We'll continue to have fun with that. Thank you to Gager and Zach for coming up with their list, and for all the nasties out there throwing their suggestions and picks as well on the nasty chat. I'm going to look at the inbox quickly here if we got any there. But coming up next, we'll get to G. Roy Simon is speaking with the media. He's kind of just doing a quick, look back at the season so far and look ahead to this playoff push. So if anything comes for that, we'll be sure to pass it along. But he is meeting with the media on a Zoom call in about 3 minutes at 2 p.m. And we'll have Tim Hauraney, Gager's favorite guest, to talk some F1 as we're ahead of a race in, where is it again, Gager?
Azerbaijan.
I just wanted you to say before I butchered it, so
that's okay.
I wanted to be safe. So I know we're going to have some fun with our good old friend Tim there. Hour 1 of EST Afternoons is done as we head into hour 2. Like I said, on the other side of the break, we'll talk some Elks, some Oilers, and some F1. That's all coming up here on EST Afternoons on Edmonton Sports Talk.
Hey Edmonton, ready to take advantage of lower rates and better pricing? South Fort Chevrolet in Fort Saskatchewan has you covered. From rugged trucks to sleek SUVs. And with over 40 years in business, you can trust that you're getting the best deal on your new ride. As the proud title sponsor of The Nielsen Show, EST listeners can drive a little to save a lot with South Fort Chevrolet's transparent pricing and down-to-earth sales team. Visit us today in Fort Saskatchewan or online at southfortchev.com.
Few of us can say that we're over 60 and still hot, but Mr. Mike's Burger can. And to celebrate over 60 years of Mr. Mike's famous burger, you're invited to taste history for only $8.99 at Mike Burger Madness. Savor the original flame-grilled Mike Burger on their signature garlic French loaf for a limited time. Dine-in only price of just $8.99. Sides extra. Burger Madness, and you'd be mad to miss it. Offer ends September 30th. Eat locally, enjoy casually. Edmonton Sports Talk delivers a mass audience of key influential customers to your business, all while you associate your company brand with the biggest names, the hottest sports news, and teams from every league around the globe. Oilers and Elks, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the association, Formula One, soccer, golf. Oh, sweet mama! The excitement is palatable on Edmonton Sports Talk. It's where fans go to get their sports fix and where our partners find the most loyal consumers. Contact us today and see how our team on Edmonton Sports Talk can score the biggest goals for your business. With various advertising options available, email business@edmontonsportstalk.com or head to our website and send a message at edmontonsportstalk.com.
Edmonton Oilers rookie camp starts tonight with players getting medicals down at Rogers Place. The rookies start their Young Stars Classic down in Penticton on Friday, and that will go until the 16th. Former Oiler Taylor Yamamoto has signed a PTO with the Utah HC. He had 8 goals for 16 points in 59 appearances for the Kraken last year. And also getting a PTO, Max Pacioretty. There with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Former captain of the Montreal Canadiens has dealt with injuries over the past few seasons. and has played with the Golden Knights and most recently with the Capitals last year. In NFL news, Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert is ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bills. He missed all the team's practices this week as well. Devon A-Chain, the team's other running back, is also questionable for tomorrow. And don't forget to come down to the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge to come hang out with LTE every Monday and Thursday for all the NFL action this year. In the MLB right now, the Jets are up 1-0 against the Mets at the end of the fourth. Coming up here, it is EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Hour 2 of EST Afternoons. I'm Hernan Salas, joined by Joaquin Gage and Zach Kubusch, coming to you live from the William Huff Studios here in the west end of the city. If you'd like to connect with us, hit us up on the busy Nasty Chat on YouTube or on the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. Of course, you can listen to us on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, the TuneIn app, iHeartRadio, or watch us on YouTube. We're still getting tons of names in for best voices in the Hollywood history, I guess.
We used to play this game on the buses driving because we didn't have, smartphones weren't really a thing when no one could watch movie. We had like mini DVD players, but the battery would run out real quick. But we would it would be like going around a circle, and we'd have to mention if we'd say an actor, and then what movies they were in or what roles they played. So you'd have to be like, a big one would be like Tom Hanks, right? So you'd say like Toy Story, Philadelphia, and keep going around like that and then people would get very creative of what movies they were in, cameos, things like that, and stuff like that. So, but this is kind of funny seeing all these. Next time we need a bigger list, I guess, Hernan. We need at least 5 to 10, because I'm seeing Jennifer Tilly. that's great.
Fran Drescher from what show is she on?
The Nanny.
Yeah. So that one. There's just so much. Jeff Goldblum. Did you say Seth MacFarlane? No, you didn't say that one. Jack Nicholson, Arnold. I mean, how do we forget Arnold? Stallone, like. Just some absolute beauties. Dustin Hoffman, another one coming in. And we did say Al Pacino as well. Just some news from the media world, Gager, that's just coming down. Christine Simpson, longtime Sportsnet hockey analyst, reporter, she sent out on X that her time at Sportsnet has come to an end.
Oh.
I think she's been there since 1998. That's quite a run.
That is quite a run. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I liked her. I thought she did a great job leading into games with usually great interviews with people, I like when you see the other side of players, like after a game, tensions are heightened, they watch what they say, how many times you can hear a player say, give it 110% and get the puck deep, right? This give them a glimpse into other things that were also important to players. So I really enjoyed her segments. That sucks. That really sucks.
Doug, that says next EST acquisition.
Hey, Christine, if you're available, we'd love to have you.
And I think she's from Edmonton.
Oh, really? Okay,
no, maybe not. Because she's Craig Simpson's sister, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Craig Simpson's from Edmonton. He might be from out east. But like you said, just a great way to tell stories, a great way to interact with the players, and just a true pro. And I don't think she'll be out of work very long, because she's far too talented and great to for someone not to pick her up. So we'll see what happens there with Christine Simpson. We'll talk some NHL right now, as a lot of PTOs coming down the wire. Let's talk about one former Edmonton Oiler, Kyler Yamamoto, lands on a PTO with the new Utah Hockey Club there. Are you surprised he's on a PTO?
Yeah, it's funny because it seemed like what I think Cass called it the nudie line when he was
the nudie line. Yes,
they played with it was Leon and the Nuge and Yamo, and they went nuts for a good point, like a good 10, 12 games, I think, and put up a ton of points. And I thought that was kind of the coming out of for Kyler. Then they obviously switched. I think who was the coach at the time didn't go back. That was the bubble or the lock or the COVID year. He didn't go back to that line until it was like almost desperate, which we were all questioning. But from all accounts, even the big dogs loved to play with him, right? Because he was responsible. He was always in pretty good position. I think it just scored a huge goal against LA to seal that series a couple of years ago for the Oilers. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard just to find the right place, right? And always seemed like he was a bottom six guy playing top six and just couldn't produce at that level, right? Like he needed to find a way to play in that bottom six, be productive, but find the right people to play with. And that it didn't seem like it was working out that well in Seattle for him. So yeah, no, I'm not surprised really, Hernan, that he's on a PTO. Like you talk about the career length of NHL hockey players, like he's falling right into that, right? I mean, this doesn't mean his career's ended by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully things can work out for him, because I liked him as a player. Small in stature, big heart, wasn't afraid to get into tough areas, right? But it just seems like, he's trying to find that right fit.
And the reason I say surprise is he's got over 300 NHL games. He hasn't toiled in the minors since 2019-2020 season, Gage, when he got called up and then never looked back, right? So and his age, he's 25 years old. You don't see PTOs unless you're like that tweener guy that's trying to make it in the NHL. But this guy's established in the NHL. Like I said, 134 points in 303 games, and the age is throwing me off here because he's only 25 years old. Like. And we got one here from Zach. He says, is it just because he's too small? Like you said, he's not a top line guy. On a good team, he's probably not on your second line. And then in the bottom six, is he the fit you want because of his size?
Well, it doesn't help. We were talking about Nick Anderson, right? How he's kind of that tweener that is. Everyone looks at size. Oh, we need someone bigger in that role. He did get pushed around a little bit in that series against LA, right? He had trouble getting to the front of the net and winning some of those battles against bigger opposition. But look, I still think there's a place, especially in today's NHL, for a guy like that. Very strong, like center of gravity. There was battle, there was fight, but it is difficult when you get to the most important times of the years, and he's going up against a 6'6", 220 guy in the corner.
Yeah,
it becomes extremely difficult for him to win those battles. But then again, out in Westlock this weekend, I played with a guy who was 5'7". and played over 1,300 games in the NHL at a time when it was a lot different. So I think Kyler could have a long NHL career? Definitely. But again, it's just finding that right fit. But you need to be able to produce. That's the thing. If you're not going to – he needs to put the points up. I think he just has to find that right fit. And just playing with Leon and – for all that period of time, and just wasn't even getting added to the score sheet, right? There wasn't even many token second assists, things like that. He has to produce on the offensive side to prolong his career in the NHL.
Yeah, because I remember that, and I think I was still in radio, and we were talking about how he wasn't even getting shots on net.
Yeah,
and he was playing with Leon Draisaitl on the struggles and all that. A good PK guy for a smaller guy. He could play on your power play. I know he moonlighted a few times for the Oilers when there was injuries and all that. But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, he'll probably land with Utah. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good guy you can have. I mean, he's an everyday guy now. Who knows? And it's not like Utah's, their depth is elite by any stretch. So we'll see where Kailer Yamamoto lands. So I know a lot of reports after our show yesterday that it's going to get done, that Travis Dermott is going to come on a PTO. And I just got to say this, Gager, and it drives me crazy when we bring up who he played with in junior. Like, that stuff to me does not matter. Like, hey, he played with Connor McDavid in junior and played under Coach K. And I'm like, do we not remember last year with Connor Brown? Like, he's going to score 40 points, because there was a lot of fans that thought Connor Brown was going to go for 30, 40 goals because he had chemistry with Connor McDavid and junior. I hate that narrative, because for me, it has nothing. It won't impact anything what Travis Dermott does with the Oilers.
No. Very rarely do you see the chemistry that was cultivated in junior translate years later, if they weren't together, at the NHL level, right? It's just it's a complete different game.
Yeah.
I think we should. I got to talk to Dusty and everyone else, but I think that we should have the Ty Ratty Award for in preseason here. The award goes to the one Edmonton Oiler that we think is going to score 50 and doesn't even play more than 10 games, right? But that's how it is here. We look at past performances, we dissect everything, but really in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean much.
No, it doesn't. Are you looking forward to the Four Nations in February, or are you kind of? I hate when the NHL stops. That's just me.
I can't wait to see just more so the iconic photos. Like, right? Like, I would love to see a backdoor tap in 2-on-1 with Crosby and McDavid, something like that, right? Like, just those types of moments I think are important. I'm looking forward to see Connor on the world stage, but it's not really the world stage either.
No.
You know, that's the thing. And it'll be exciting to watch, and I'll get wrapped up in it as just like everyone else will, and we'll be talking about it. It'll give us some more content to talk about. It'll be fun to watch, best on best. But for me, I would like to see a true best on best and have more countries involved. And I mean, that does involve some political issues with Russia, obviously. And I'm not saying that I think Russia should be part of it, but for me, just selfishly, I just want to see best on best.
It's incredible that we haven't seen Connor on that stage, the world stage.
Yeah, I know. Well, COVID screwed up a lot of things, right? But we probably would have seen that in the last Olympics if all possible. It's nice to see that they're kind of getting more towards that. And even if the NHL just has kind of these types of tournaments, I think they're more exciting than the All-Star game. You know, the only time I really think that I would really get involved or be part of an All-Star game or want to go see it is if it was in Edmonton. I'm sure it would be a fantastic time down in Ice District with what they would be able to do down there and have all the other things going along. I think it'll be really special once they complete the whole vision of the Ice District and eventually have the All-Star game in Edmonton. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see until that comes.
Yeah, another story coming from the NHL. Bill Daly's at the NHL /NHLPA Player Media Tour in Las Vegas, and he did stress that the league is not in a rush to get to 33 or 34 teams anytime soon. He says there's ample interest in places like Houston, Kansas City, Atlanta. Gager, do you have an appetite for expansion in the NHL?
No, not yet. Not yet. I think they need at least a good maybe 5-6 years more where you're going to have the talent pool can't be weakened, right? I don't want to see a team come in and just and we haven't seen that. I think it's been good with the last few teams that have been able to come in and be competitive, but I think quick expansion leads to those bottom feeder teams. And still you see I'd like to see every team challenging for the playoffs, just tight games every single night, right? They kind of said that about the PWHL, the women's league, right? Should they expand? I'm like, not yet. Let this league get better and better and better. More girls are playing. Jason Chimera's daughter we're going to see her in that league eventually. But there's going to be more girls with eyes on this saying, oh, I can play competitive. It's going to make
100%
better players. Just the quick expansion. I think the NHL is perfect where it's at right now. I agree with Daly. Let's hold off for a while until more expansion teams come in.
Yeah, the issue I have with more expansion is the teams are going to be watered down. Like it's and then like to win a Stanley Cup, like some teams, it's getting even harder. It's already hard, and you're adding 4 more teams, let's say, or 2 more. I think the talent pool is going to go down because you have to fill more rosters, and I also think then for teams that aspire to be Stanley Cup champions, it's just going to get that much harder.
Well, and you don't want another Phoenix situation.
No,
like you don't want a big, huge building with 8,000 people in it, right? Like that's just. There's certain markets I think that can work. I mean the old IHL, like Kansas City was a good place. Like they drew some fans, but you gotta get the right spot. I'll be interested. Yeah. Utah is going to be interesting for me, right? Like I think that's a good spot. I think they can draw some people, but yeah, they just can't have another Phoenix on their hands.
And he did mention Atlanta, and going back to somewhere where it didn't work is just mind-boggling. Now, again, he did say, as a practical matter, it has to be a ceiling, and I don't think we're necessarily at that ceiling. So it's not like this is coming anytime soon, but it's a good discussion because I know the morning guys were talking about which league will hit 40 teams first, Gager. Like MLS, NBA, NFL, NHL. I don't think the NHL is close. I think it's those other leagues that might hit that first. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, buddy.
You pulled a cast.
I pulled a cast. I think the NHL or the NFL might even look to places like Mexico City, stuff like that, right? Like this. Moving it out of country is interesting. Would you ever think an NFL team could move north of the border and come up to Canada?
Oof. I mean, you remember Toronto was having NFL games and everybody was up in arms about it. I don't think so. I wouldn't want that either, because then you're kind of taking away from the CFL. Like if you're gonna add another Canadian market, add it to the CFL and make it a 10-team league. What we've all wanted for so many years.
Yeah, it would take away from it a little bit. I wondered. I mean, I remember the Grizzlies coming to Vancouver in the NBA, right? And it was there was a lot of hype, obviously, but and I wonder if there was talk about them doing it again, and Vancouver fans are different. And I think it was Jasmine on the Hangout was talking the other day about how even for Canucks fans, the fans aren't actually in Vancouver. They're from the surrounding areas, like Coquitlam and Surrey and Abbotsford and Langley, like White Rock. That's who are the main Canuck supporters, while people that actually live in Vancouver could really take it or leave it. Like you'd talk to, I think it was even DVD when he was in Vancouver for the playoffs. compared to here, like he was saying, walking down downtown Vancouver, there weren't any car flags or people wearing jerseys. Here, it's just you can't go 10 meters without seeing a car flag or someone wearing a McDavid jersey, right? And that's in November.
Yeah. It's like my experience being in Regina during the CFL, like on game day, Gager. It is just another level. Like I haven't seen that anywhere in Canada with any sports. Like here in Edmonton, you see the car flags, you see the people all around the road. But Regina just hits different when it's Rider game day, man. It's a whole nother level. Great discussion here on expansion. Kayla Yamamoto. But coming up next, we'll get to Tim Hauraney to talk some F1. Of course, he's the F1 insider and host of Nailing the Apex podcast. That's all coming up next here on EST Afternoons. But first, here's Zach Kubusch with a sports update.
Edmonton Oilers rookie camp starts tonight with players getting down to Rogers Place for some medicals, but the games start this Friday out in Penticton and go until the 16th with the Young Stars Classic. And former Oiler Kayla Yamamoto has signed a PTO with the Utah HC. He had 8 goals for 16 points in 59 appearances for the Kraken last year. And it was the Toronto Maple Leafs signing Yanni Hapanka to a 1-year deal. He signed for just under $1.5 million. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare was invited to attend the Colorado Avalanche's training camp. The former Av potted 7 points through 40 games last year in Seattle. Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert is ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bills. He missed all of the team's practices this week as well. Devon Achane, my apologies, the team's other running back, is also questionable for tomorrow. And the Blue Jays right now are playing a game against the Mets. They're at the top of the 6th, up 1-0 in other MLB games right now. At the bottom of the 6th, the Guardians lead 5-4 against the White Sox, while the Diamondbacks are up 5-1 against the Rangers. Coming up next, it will be F1 analyst Tim Hauraney joining Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage on EST Afternoons. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your EST update.
Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
You've always known GCL Diesel as the experts in diesel fuel systems, but did you know that GCL is also your source for turbochargers and turbo repair? As a turbo supplier for Garrett, Borg Warner, and Holset, GCL can provide genuine original equipment turbos at wholesale prices. Whether it's diesel, gas, natural gas, or performance, we can provide you with the turbo or custom repair you require. Turbo questions? We've got turbo answers. Visit us in the West End or online at GCLDiesel.com. GCL Diesel, turbochargers, understood.
At A&W, you can start the morning off right with a regular coffee and an egger of your choice for just $4.99. Bacon and egger or sausage and egger on a seeded bun or an English muffin? The choice is yours. But we know it'll be tasty either way. And to make matters even more delicious, this offer is available all day. But don't snooze on this deal. An egger and a regular coffee for only $4.99 is a limited time price. Available at participating A&W restaurants in Greater Edmonton.
EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas, Joaquin Gage, and Zach Kubusch. We're here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports, as we get to Tim Hauraney, F1 insider and host of Nailing the Apex podcast. Tim, let's get right to it. A big get for the Canadian-owned team as Adrian Newey arrives at Aston Martin. I saw you had you did some clips on X regarding this story. Can you just break it down and what it all means?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for you guys. Really appreciate it. So obviously, Adrian, let's just put it this way. The news was as big as when Lewis Hamilton went to Ferrari. That's how coveted this car design new is. He's a top talent and want to win in Formula One. He is the guy you want to have building.
Yeah,
building your race car.
We're just gonna reconnect here with Tim as we're having some phone issues here. Zach's just gonna give me the thumbs up when we get Tim back here. As it was cutting in and out. Gager, are you there? You're on mute too. Man, it's
I'm sick, buddy. It's terrible. This is terrible.
It's been a rough show.
Everyone was wondering where Adrian Newey would land, right? And it seemed like a big battle. I think I mentioned it yesterday between McLaren, Mercedes, but obviously the deep pockets of Lawrence Stroll enticed Adrian Newey to come to Aston Martin. I'll be interested to see what Tim says because with the new plant, what were the other reasons as well why Newey picked Aston Martin over some other teams?
Yeah, I think we got Tim back here. Tim, hopefully the connection is a lot better right now. I was asking you about Adrian Newey and his arrival at Aston Martin, and you were just breaking it down for us. So you can continue now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge story.
No, I think we're going to have to...
This has been a long time coming, I think, for a team like Aston Martin. They've been building this team, up to what it is now for quite some time. Lawrence Stroll took this thing over in 2018 when there were about 300 employees. And, in a span of a couple of years, he's really turned it around to have a number of 800, 900 employees and a company that's probably going to be soon evaluated at $3 billion. So, he's taken something that he bought for $120 million and he's turned it into something very massive with the addition of Adrian Newey and having him at that team. It's just going to keep growing, right? So, I think I heard you guys talking off air there, but like one of the key reasons that came to Aston Martin and not anyone else, it actually wasn't really to do with money at all. It was more to do with working with some key individuals at Aston Martin. Not only that, it's the state-of-the-art equipment that they have there now that not a lot of other factories have. The wind tunnel that they're developing there is something that no one else has. And other teams have wind tunnels, but they're not to this level of technology, let's call it. And outside of that, Ferrari was turned down by Adrian numerous times. Ferrari tried to get him more than once, and each time he had turned them down, Ferrari could have matched what Lawrence was paying him. In fact, they probably could have went above what they were paying, what Aston's paying him as well. It wasn't all about money. Adrian had a select list of demands that they were able to meet. But outside of all that, a big part of it was working with this team, and the car company itself is something that Adrian covets quite highly. So, it was kept under wraps for quite a while, but it's pretty exciting news now that it's out there.
Tim, is there kind of a non-compete, or what's the time frame that Adrian Newey can start working on the cars at Aston Martin? Is it more geared towards 2026, or will we see I don't know if massive's the right word, but a lot of different ways of looking at the Aston Martin car now?
Question. I missed the first part of it. I couldn't hear you, but I felt like I got the tail end of it. The car for 2025 that we'll see on the racetrack will be built by Dan Fallows and Eric Blonda. That'll be their creation, because Adrian can't start working at Aston Martin until March 1st, 2025. And so by that time, the car's already going to be conceived and developed and out on the track, and we'll already have turned laps. What Adrian can do with that car is he can have some influence on it, but it's like you're saying, for 2026, it's the main goal. because of the massive regulation change that's coming into Formula One. And when I say regulation change, I mean these cars are going to be totally different, and so are the engines. The engines are going to be totally different. And to have a works team, which Aston Martin will have, which means that they're partnering up with Honda for 2026. And Adrian has worked with Honda a lot in the past, and it's something that he wanted to continue to do. And for Lawrence to go out and get Honda as their engine maker and collaborate with them on that project, it's huge for 2026, because by the looks of it, and looking at the regulation now and what it is, I mean, it's going to be very engine dependent. And so if Adrian can collaborate well with Honda, they can build a car based around whatever power unit that Honda decides to put in there. And that's a key thing, because if you compare to what Aston Martin does now, they buy their power units, so they buy their engines from Mercedes. So they can't necessarily build their race car the way they actually want it because of the size of the engine that Mercedes makes. It has its own dimensions that works specifically for what Mercedes, the team, want to do with their car concept, with their car development. And so when you have an engine partner who you can collaborate with, you can then tailor your car specifically around whatever's being built for you. So it's very important to have that, I think, in this new regulation that we're going to be entering.
Well, we're heading to Azerbaijan, to Baku this week. The Constructors Championship is closer than it's ever been for the last few seasons. Can you explain, actually, I've been trying to find out what exactly the papaya rules are now for the McLaren team?
God, I think everybody's trying to figure out what those are. I think it's essentially don't crash into each other. Like, it's pretty much what it is. I have a feeling that by the time we get to Baku, there may be some team orders that are put in place for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Team orders basically being you're a number one driver, you're a number two driver, and the number two driver protects the number one driver, because we want that number one driver to have a chance at winning this drivers' championship, which they do. They are mathematically in it. Red Bull is really struggling right now, and there's no reason why that Lando Norris can't take, out of these next two races that are coming up, can't take at least 20 to 30 points out of Max Verstappen's lead. There's no reason why they can't do that. And so team orders, I mean, in a way, you're not allowing the two drivers to really go out and race each other, and that's not really what Lando Norris wants. But if he wants to win a championship, I mean, he's going to need a bit of help. He's going to need Oscar Piastri's help, who's his teammate. So I would be surprised, guys, if we see some team orders come into play here over these next two races.
Tim, Gager, just ahead of this race this weekend, I know you always drop your top three ahead of it. I know they're still practicing qualifying, but how are you seeing this race play out?
This race is always awesome. Baku always throws up a ton of surprises. We usually get winners and podium finishers who we never really expected, because the track is just very conducive to crashes. Different strategies, which really throw a wrench into everything. Some teams are going to be really strong here that we wouldn't have expected, and some teams are really going to struggle here that we wouldn't have expected. And so I think, like, when we take a look at who could be the top three, fastest teams, I always have to look at Mercedes when they come here, and same with Ferrari. Coming off a huge win in Monza with Charles Leclerc, and then obviously the McLarens. I think we have to factor them in as well. It'll just be interesting to see what happens with Red Bull and where they sort of shake out in all of it, because I have a feeling they could struggle pretty heavily at this track this coming weekend.
Baku has that big long straight. I remember a few years ago, Lewis Hamilton looked like he was 80 years old trying to get out of that Mercedes car with the porpoising. Is kind of straight line speed, the cars that can show the best straight line speed, more efficient in this race?
Yeah, it'll be important, no doubt. The straightaway in Baku is one of the longest on the Formula One calendars. It's just over 2 kilometers in length. So you want to make sure you have the car trimmed out as possible. So what I mean by that is so it can slip through the air easier. So you're kind of taking downforce off of the car, essentially. But if you have a car that has good mechanical grip, so can corner well, is very efficient in braking zones, is very efficient in braking while you're turning the steering wheel into a corner to get to the apex, sometimes those types of cars and drivers, they do quite well here because of the turns. They're 90-degree turns. There's nothing that's too out of the ordinary except for the castle section, which is, that's friggin' wild to take a Formula One car through there, to be honest with you. I don't know how to do it sometimes, but yeah, outside of all that, I mean, if you can have that good mix of good mechanical grip, then you can be pretty quick in the second sector, and you can be pretty quick in the beginning of that third sector. And I think that's really important too, because there's a lot of time you can make up there. When you get to the straightaways, I mean, it is important. I would say it's probably going to give you a couple extra tenths for sure, but I think just with the design of the way the track is, you can make up time in other spots, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Tim, great stuff. As always, enjoy the race this weekend. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us this afternoon.
Oh, thanks very much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
That's Tim Hauraney, F1 insider and host of Nailing the Apex podcast. That's number 1 on Gager's podcast list. Gage, I was just looking at this track, Gager. It is an interesting one, isn't it, compared to others?
It's really interesting, man. And like you said, Tim said, there's usually a few crashes in there. Being a street circuit, you get on that really long straightaway. So the balance of the car that they have to do, it's different for everybody. I remember Williams had some really good straight line speed for a while and did quite well here, right? That's kind of why I asked the question, what's more important? But again, like Tim said, there's a lot of other areas in this track where you can make up time. So practice will be interesting to watch, to see where Red Bull is, where Ferrari is. I mean, of course, the big news of the day is Adrian Newey saying, like, everything that I've read about this guy over the last few years is what he can do for your car is just he's a Jedi. He just makes the team that much better and everybody around him better. So looking forward to those new regulations come 2026 when the cars are completely different and he can get his hands on a car that's developed in a facility that's like basically a spaceship.
Yeah, what can you, I guess, tell me and kind of the casual F1 on Ollie Behrman? I know he's racing this week for Haas and replacing Magnussen. I know this is not his debut because he debuted for Carlos Sainz and had a good showing, but this is different racing for Haas, isn't it?
Yeah, because last time, but what he did was quite impressive. I believe he was using Charles Leclerc's steering wheel, and everyone's steering wheel is custom designed for them, like where the buttons are. He basically went into a new car with a new steering wheel that he wasn't used to, and I believe had a 7th place finish in that race. So, and was great. Held off, I think, Lewis Hamilton at the end. So a lot of hype with Ollie Behrman. Obviously, the Haas car has had really good 1-lap pace. So just the race pace overall, I think it's gotten better. But it'll be a little bit different for him, I think. But hey, this kid has shown that he can compete with a good car underneath him. We'll see how he does in practice. Maybe he can get into that Q3. It won't be easy, but there have been, like, Nico Hülkenberg is consistently getting into Q2s, Q3s on a regular basis.
The Nature Boy on the Paris Jewelers inbox says Tim Hauraney is an awesome interview. Baku is a great race. Looking forward to it, and congrats to Aston Martin for their coupe. Gage, I won't get your predictions just yet because there's still practice to come. I think that starts Friday, qualifying on Saturday as per usual. So maybe I will get some predictions from you on Friday regarding this race, which should be interesting. The track is very fascinating as well. But big shout out to Tim Hauraney, always the best F1 insider we have in this country, and he's been great joining us here and at the old station. Always very willing with his time, so we thanked him for that. Coming up next, we'll wrap up EST Afternoons for the Wednesday edition as we tee up the Reed Wilkins Show that's coming up with Jay Milne from 3 to 6. That's all up next, but first here is Zach with a sports update.
Former Oiler Kyler Yamamoto has signed a PTO with the Utah HC. He had 8 goals for 16 points in 59 games for the Kraken last year. Yanni Aponka has inked it with the Toronto Maple Leafs. His deal is just for 1 year at over $1.5 million. Pierre Edward Bellemare was invited to attend the Colorado Avalanche's training camp. The former Av potted 7 points through 40 games in the Kraken uniform last year. Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert is ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bills. He missed all the team's practices this week as well. Devon Achane, the team's other running back, is also questionable for tomorrow. And don't forget that you could head down to the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road to kick it with Lieutenant Eric for every Monday and Thursday night for all the NFL action this season. Over in the MLB, the Jays are up against the Mets, and at midway through the 7th, the Jays still hold the game 1-0. Just after the break, we'll be back with the final segment on today's show on EST Afternoons, here with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
Your brand deserves more than just a whisper. It deserves a buzz. At the Hive Product Marketing, they specialize in promotional products that bring the buzz. From eye-catching giveaways to unforgettable keepsakes, they got the perfect products to make your brand stand out and get noticed. Visit the Hive Product Marketing and let them create the buzz your business deserves. The Hive Product Marketing, the official merch partner of Edmonton Sports Talk. Visit them online at thehiveproductmarketing.com.
You want the heavy hitters on your team, both on and off the ice. If you've been injured in a car accident, call the heavy hitters of injury law. James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers. With over 200 years of combined injury law experience, their precedent-setting lawyers are ready to help. Locally owned and proud Edmonton Oiler fans, James H. Brown and Associates wants to support you with their unrivaled experience, unrivaled results, and unrivaled commitment. When accidents happen, head to jameshbrown.com.
Start crumbling in my head. There's nothing, the light's gone, I'm shaking. Why do you hate me? I've been spent, there's nothing left. Won't you for once stand beside me? I'm broken for nothing. To hear that you're left to protect me. Fighting all my
2:44, last segment here on EST Afternoons. It's Salas, Gage, Kubusch joining you on this hump day. Had a fun show. RJ Ochoa joined us to talk Dallas Cowboys. Tim Hauraney teed up the race this weekend in the big news out of Aston Martin. And something we talked about yesterday on the show with Dave Pagnotta, Yanni Hakanpää signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs on a 1-year deal worth $1.47 million. And it seems Toronto just can't. Listen, I don't know if it's going to work out, but Toronto does this every season. They load up with some older guys and hoping to push them over that playoff wall that they can't get through. But, I mean, sure, Hakanpää is 32 years old. I remember him in Dallas. He's solid defenseman, block shots, a physical guy. But I just don't know Gager. I just feel like Toronto does the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, buddy. They got some work to do too, right? Because now I believe they're over the cap by just $1 million. Pagnotta said yesterday that they were probably going to look to move Richardson, that it would be easier, obviously, having him under contract. Sometimes you run into coaches or coaching staff that look at that value experience more than maybe some younger players, and sometimes that works out for you. I mean, I'm shocked that they said Max Pacioretty would have a deal done. From what it sounds like, they're going to get it done by the end of training camp because it's going to take a little bit of time. But this is a team that's put themselves right up against it again. This is looking at what happened to the Oilers, and I'm just kind of going through. Now I have the eye for potential offers for restricted free agents that they've kind of, depending on what happens, like that Matthew Nyes, that's he's a pretty good player.
He is, yes.
Could be looking at someone could be possibly looking at him as an offer sheet if he does have another successful season. So who knows? They're up against it right now. But again, with an old team, that talented forward group, but I don't know if that puts them over that hump.
Yeah, and a couple of former Oilers as well signing PTO. Sam Gagner signs one with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's a very good team that also can't get past that. I wouldn't call it the second round, yeah. I know they made the third round a couple of years ago, but lost to the Florida Panthers before losing to the Vegas Golden Knights. And Adam Ernie has signed the PTO with the New York Rangers. He was limited time with the Oilers. I still remember Ernie's beautiful goal against the Devils though last year. As when they were about to turn the season around, and he just came down the right side and flew in there, and it was just great to see. So a couple former Oilers signing PTOs, looking to continue their careers in the NHL. I mean, Sam Gagner, I think, would be in tough there with that Carolina team, especially with his age and kind of what he can bring, and not a lot of speed there. And I know Sam Gagner last year, he's absolutely loved in the city. Gage, everybody was clamoring for him in the playoffs and all that. But yeah, I think he's going to be in a little bit tough. But good on him for continuing to get PTOs and continuing the dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah, good for Sam. I mean, he obviously wants to keep playing. I liked him as a player. I still liked him as a player now. I thought there could have been a kind of a role for him here in Edmonton still. Obviously not on a consistent basis, but someone that you could put in that bottom six, and I don't think he would hurt you. He's a good motivator. But look, it's just in the race against Father Time, you always lose. And this is another year. Sam, a little bit older. You're not as fast as you once were. Still a smart hockey player, but like you said, that Carolina team, if you're going to pick any team to go to, that's a tough one. They're stacked.
That's a tough one to definitely go to there. But the Edmonton Oilers rookies checked in for medicals and fitness testing today. Nothing official on defenseman Travis Dermott from the Edmonton Oilers, but by all accounts, it's only a matter of time before that drops here as well for the Edmonton Oilers. I'll give you some key dates again that were dropped by the NHL. Obviously, camps across the NHL open 1 week today on September 18th. We can't wait, Gage. That's going to be great to see line combinations, defensive pairings. I think the number one guy on everybody's list is Ty Emberson, because many of the Excel people just have him slotted in there, and he's supposed to be this great defenseman. And he might be, but I've never watched him play. I don't really know what to expect, but I'm excited to watch him play. Opening rosters due October 7th. The holiday freeze will be December 20th to the 27th. The season pause for the Four Nations face-off is February 10th to the 21st, and the NHL's trade deadline will be March 7th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And the last day of the season is April 17th. So it looks like it's going to be another long into the summer Stanley Cup final, Gager, which, when did it end this year? Like close to the 20th? It was around there? It was just days away from the NHL draft and free agency.
Yeah, it was like the next day, right? So just crazy. Too long. Don't need that many games, but they'll never change it. But that's just me.
What's your range? 76?
Well, I'd go 62, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
I think that's too low for me.
It just I look at those games and from the middle of January to February it's just so difficult to play at that level for 82. Right? There's just
you always get
games
those,
that guys you get those lulls and you're just like, what was that?
Those games where you're like you fall asleep while watching during the second period where it's just like why? Like Columbus on a Tuesday evening when it's minus 25.
Yeah, it's just it's not that entertaining. And I think what it would do is just the games would mean so much more, right? Every game's so much more important because there's less of them, obviously. So, but I just think it would increase the product on the ice. That's all.
I'm gonna chime in on some Elks just comments here as Dave Campbell was in on the Zoom call with I was gonna say G-Roy Jackson. It's not G-Roy Jackson, it's G-Roy Simon. Just some quotes here, courtesy of Dave Campbell. He says, on the decision to start Trey Ford versus the Bombers on September 21st, he says Jarius Jackson made the decision, and Simon says he fully supports it. MBT has played well, but Ford brings a different dynamic with his skill set. And he also asked if MBT suffered an injury before being pulled after throwing the pick six. Simon says MBT will be fine. Doesn't look like the Elks will get anyone back from their injured list as well when they return next week, which is pretty long. Their 6-game injured list is getting there long, but just more. This was. I mean, I know the fans are loving this move. Trey Ford didn't leave, wasn't, substituted out for MBT because of poor play. He got hurt, and then MBT came in, played very well, swept the Labor Day series. But it sounds like this is an organization going with the young guy and seeing what they got. And listen, he played one quarter against Hamilton. He played the full game against Sask, and then pretty much a quarter against BC. But in 6 quarters of play, Trey Ford has been outstanding.
Yeah, and I like the storylines, right? Like going up against his brother, most important time of the year. I think there has to be a subtle shift to show that Trey Ford's your guy moving forward. No better time than right now.
Can I ask you a question though? So let's say you go into this game next Saturday, the Elks lose. Does that change anything for the quarterback position?
Depends on the play.
Depends on the play, right? Like if let's say it's two touchdowns, one interception, and you lose, and you threw for just over 200. Like, is that still good enough for you to remain with the guy?
I'd probably want to see a little bit more on the offensive side. I'd like to see him move the ball more. I would say closer to that 300 yards passing from Trey. But it makes the decision a little bit easier, I think. But again, I think this is his team moving forward.
Yeah,
you have to make the change. I think if you're going to put the ball in the hands of the future of your team, no better time to do it than the most important time of the season. These 2 games against the Bombers are going to be very entertaining and have huge playoff implications, not only to make the playoffs, but seeding. Right?
Yeah.
This could mean a home date for the Elks. That would be massive. That would just be massive. So
and I say that because in a normal setting, Gager, like your number one's your number one, regardless if you win or lose. But it's just different here because both guys have played well. Both guys have kind of left. Trey left due to injury. MBT was pulled in the Hamilton game in the fourth quarter, and then they decided to go with Trey for the next game. So it's a little bit different, but I understand that just you can't run your team if they lose, they're out, right? It's despite having two really, really quality quarterbacks that can win you games. So for me, I asked that question just because of the situation the Elks kind of are in with their quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, it is a good position to be in.
Oh,
I think it's better than most. We saw what happened in Winnipeg, right? They signed two more guys because they don't know if Collaros is going to be okay, right? So
yeah, and Streveler's nothing's been official yet, but it sounds like he's going to be out for the years. He tore 3 ligaments and
4 ligaments in his knee, right? Or what was it? So.
And you're bringing in two guys with CFL experience. They've been around. So, I mean, you understand why they're doing that.
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at a Jake Golagaga, whatever.
Dolegala.
I mean, the Elks are licking their chops if that happens.
Yeah. So they get back. I think the players have to arrive by Friday, and they'll be back on the field either Sunday or Monday as they prepare for that big game. It's going to be great next week to tee up the Blommers and Elks. Such a big 2-game series. But that's going to do it for us here on EST Afternoons. A big thanks to RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, Talking Dallas Cowboys, and Tim Hauraney, F1 insider and host of Nailing the Apex podcast. Joaquin, great stuff. Hope to see you in studio tomorrow. If not, this works perfectly, and hopefully we have a better start tomorrow. We had some technical difficulties. Thank you for sticking with us throughout all of that. For Joaquin Gage and Zach Kubusch, I am Hernan Salas. This is EST Afternoons on Edmonton Sports Talk. Have a great day.
Come get your game on at The Ranch. The Ranch lets it all hang out with a championship caliber design, premier conditions, and above all, a fun laid-back experience. Get top-notch service and unmatched value every time you play at The Ranch. Think you have what it takes to go low? The best value for your golfing buck is always The Ranch. The Ranch Golf and Country Club. 10, 50, 100, and 200 round packs on sale. TheRanchGolf.com.